and welcome to the International M.I.C.E Showcase 2.0 Virtual Summit. And we are here at an enlightening panel discussion. We are here with erudite speakers from all over the world to discuss and deliberate on the upcoming trends in our industry. Friends, we all know that M.I.C.E plays a very important role, and it encompasses not just exhibitions, but also meetings, incentives, B2B meets, and also conferences. Today, we have with us esteemed speakers who encompass all these elements. I would like to welcome our esteemed speakers for this session, Mr. David AUDRAIN, Executive Director, SETHI, Mr. Raymond Lim, Area Director, North and East India Singapore Tourism Board, Ms. MARIANE, EWBANK, Director, Co-Standing Shows, Mr. Naveen Rizvi, Executive Director, Pacific World India, also ICE, Mr. RAJEEV KOHLI, Managing Director, Creative Travel. We are also waiting for Ms. Kathy Braden to join us. She is the EVP and COO of CEIR, Center of Exhibition Industry Research. And we'd like to welcome Mr. Ravinder Sethi, who is the CMD of RE Rogers India. Officially, he'll be closing the session with his concluding remarks. So thank you all for this opportunity to interact and deliberate on today's very important topic on the upcoming trends in our industry. What will be the drivers of our future growth? I'd like to invite Mr. David AUDRAIN to open up the session. He's a veteran in the industry, spent a lot of years all across the globe knowing about the exhibition industry, the event industry, and he also is the Executive Director of SETHI. It's a very important body in the world of exhibitions. Mr. David, I'd like to take your comments on your take on the situation and what has been the impact on your members and also on the organizer fraternity. Over to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. As you said, I serve as the Executive Director of SETHI, the Society of Independent Show Organizers. And as such, I'm in contact on an almost daily basis with the members from around the world. We are seeing the devastation of COVID-19 impact our industry all across the world, not just the organizers, but also the venues, the suppliers, our service partners, because it's basically, for the first time in history, closed down our industry. What we are also seeing, however, is a changing reopening across the world. We are seeing in China and Asia events opening on a fairly prolific basis now. China has had a number of shows over the last month open very successfully. Tarsus, Informa, Reed, the Messrs, as well as local organizers are starting to see shows, even very large million-square-foot plus shows reopening to quite good success, but on a national basis. Very few international, if any, international exhibitors or international attendees, much more on a localized basis. We're also seeing Europe getting ready to start opening this fall, and we expect to see shows in the major centers in Europe, certainly as soon as October, with test events even before that. With many events starting in Paris, for example, on a smaller scale. What we are still seeing, however, is a complete shutdown in the United States. 99% of the events in the United States are still closed and have been canceled now, in most cases, through the rest of this year, though we hope to see some events in the fourth quarter. But many venues are even basically mothballed through the end of the year. And we've already started to see, as some of the news has seen, some of the major events in the first quarter of 21 already canceled, such as the Consumer Electronics Show, CES, and some others. And we're seeing a lot of others trying to move. A large part of that and the difference in the regions is due, frankly, to the leadership in the countries and the ability to control the spread of the virus. China has done a good job in recent months of wiping out the spread to the degree that society has, for a large part, reopened, and events are following that. The European countries also have started to get a good hold on things, whereas in the US, unfortunately, we do not. We still have very high infection rates, spreading rates, and death rates. and that along, most importantly, with the severe lack of rapid and easily accessible testing, has made it very difficult for us to get people comfortable coming to events again. And that's where a large part of this derives from, is the lack of comfort, lack of willingness to participate. So what we do see from the research that has been put together already is that the marketplaces do want to see live events back again. And there is a very high rate of interest in participating again, both from exhibitors and attendees, as soon as they feel comfortable. And as I say, we've seen already in China, a lot of events show exactly that, with very high rates of exhibitor and attendee participation based on previous years. So we can feel comfortable that once there is rapid testing available, that there is a constraint on the spread of the virus, that there is a high comfort level of people that they can attend events safely, so they will come back. And that's what we're now focusing on.
Thank you, David, for those opening remarks. And I would like to ask Ms. MARIANE EWBANK. She's also been involved as a chairlady of ILA, and she's put in a lot of years, dedicated years, in the operations side of events and exhibitions industry, even handling conventions, large-scale business events. What is the situation at her region? She's based in Brazil. So how's the situation there of the overall industry, and how the industry has been impacted there?
Well, the industry, well, first of all, thank you for having me here. I think it is important for all of us from the entire planet to get together and try to find ways to make our industry survive. Well, here in Brazil and most of the South America, the situation is very critical in our industry. The impact is extremely high, devastated. We have stand builders and agencies and also other companies related to the industry really closing their doors, closing their business. So the unemployment of people in this industry is really high. We have protocols in place already, okay? But here in Brazil, we have a very unique situation, I think, is that every city has the right to decide when the exhibitions and any kind of event can resume to activities. So in Rio, we have one, in São Paulo, we have one. And we have another problem is that our government doesn't see us with the right view they should. So they think that we are a mass gathering, so like festivals, music festivals and things like that, and they cannot understand the importance of the exhibition. So they think that we cannot control access to the venues, to the exhibitions, but we can do that. That's what our protocols are proposing. The venues are ready, organizers are ready, the suppliers are ready, because we did that together. We developed the best of the best, but we can only see if it works when we start to get to the action. And exhibitions is the unique opportunity for small and medium-sized companies to do business for the entire year. So if they don't do exhibitions, they don't do business. So they're going out of business. They don't exist anymore. So there's a big pressure from our industry to the authorities here to show that we are safe. And then at the same time, we have to campaign with exhibitors and visitors to gain their confidence again to go to the shows when it's ready. Because it's hard. We are doing campaigns, isolated campaigns, but it's really hard, especially because we have, in the morning we have news that the cases, they are dropping, and then in the evening the cases are going up again. So there's a lot of misinformation that get people confused. But what I can tell you that we've been working together with the local association, UBRAF, and the protocol is ready. It's a very strict one, much more efficient than what the health authorities are asking. But at the same time, we don't have the approval of the mayors and the governors to get back to the action. So at the same time, we have some exhibitors asking for the shows coming back so they can do business. We don't have the approval. So it's a very, very unstable situation and very critical.
Well, thank you, Marianne, for those wonderful words of wisdom. I'd like to move to Mr. RAJEEV KOHLI, and I'd like to focus on the meetings and incentives part. He's a veteran in the Indian fraternity. I'd like to ask from him, what is his take on the situation, and how does he assess this overall situation of the industry at this moment?
Thanks, Raghav. I think fundamentally everyone needs to understand and appreciate that nobody has a crystal ball on what's going to happen next. Okay, there's nobody alive who's ever seen anything this climactic. Perhaps World War I, if not World War II, was the last time the globe suffered this. And I've seen a number of predictions across the spectrum. I personally feel we will see a strong recovery 2022. I'm already working on incentive requests for 2021. Now, in MICE, the decision making across the M.I.C.E is very different. I don't see congresses and associations getting away with virtual events for too long. By nature of an association, you need to meet, and given that the annual conference or convention for any association is probably their major revenue earner, if they don't get back to that soon, we will see associations going out of business. We've already seen that in the travel space. I think it was ABTA that went bankrupt a few weeks ago. And I know a lot of other associations are very nervous right now because come January 2021, it is the new financial year, for at least in the West, for many organizations. I think incentives will come back a little bit faster. They might stay more regional. I know my friends in Mexico and the Caribbean are already working on briefs and inspection trips for trips out of the US. We in India might wait a little bit longer, but again, every source market in the world is reacting very differently. There are Western markets which are far more conservative. There are markets such as the Latin American markets, which are a little bit less conservative. I mean, I'm working on proposals out of Brazil, for example, right now. So it's anybody's guess, Will. I honestly don't think all these protocols, social distancing norms, these table distances is going to last more than 8 to 12 months, if at all. Okay, you can't put 200 people in a room and not expect them to hug and kiss and get a high five to each other. It's not going to happen. Okay, and I don't believe any destination can get up and say we are a safe destination, but I will say we can be a safer destination. And it's a new normal. So I'm optimistic. Is it going to be a tough haul? Absolutely. Are we going to get burnt on the way? Absolutely. But you know what? We're going to come through this.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. KOHLI. And I'd like to move to Mr. Raymond Lim, who is representing Singapore Tourism Board. I'd like to ask him what is his take on the situation and how is Singapore geared up to meet the challenges of the future. Mr. Lim, over to you.
Yes. First of all, thank you very much for inviting STB to come on board in the company of so many esteemed experts in the MICE industry. I think for the Singapore experience, actually we're quite fortunate in the sense that we have the capacity and the resources to manage the crisis caused by the COVID-19 situation, and both on the medical front and also at the on the economy at large. And also, we also draw a lot of experience from our dealings with the past crisis in the SARS in 2003 and also the 2008 financial crisis. Currently, we have actually made quite good progress in terms of gradual and calibrated return to a certain degree of normalcy. And the majority of our economy has already started, and of course, with safe management measures in place. And as we are speaking now, places of interest have already been opened. Of course, they can't open to tourists, but we are now actively encouraging domestic tourism, and all attractions are now opened at 25% capacity. So that's good. And that independent body called the Deep Knowledge Center has ranked Singapore as the 4th safest place in terms of current COVID situation. And we also have put in place a Singapore Clean program, which is our national mark for excellence for safety and hygiene. And as at now, more than 1,000 tourism establishments, including MICE venues and facilities, have all been certified under this program. So things are moving on well, but nothing can be done unless we open the borders, right? And most venues needs international delegates to make it viable. Against this backdrop, we are taking a very deliberate and very cautious reopening of our borders for international travel. And travel bubble arrangements have already been established with 2 countries, with Malaysia and 6 provinces in China. And also we just announced as at 9th September, visitors from Brunei and New Zealand can enter the country without the strict 14-day quarantine. So things are going all right. And also together with the entire MICE industry at large in Singapore, we have already announced on 22nd of July a safe resumption of our business events, and which is underpinned by a very robust risk management framework which we are implementing with all our MICE businesses to limit, at least for the time being, business events for up to 50 attendees. And we will be also piloting 2 hybrid events, with the next one coming out on the 24th September, which is the APEC MET 2020. Alongside this, we also have put in place what you call an industry resilience roadmap for the MICE industry. This is basically to establish a best-in-class standards for new event safety measures, creating, and it's just not the physical logistic, but also creating agile business models to help the industry repivot their business, and also develop pathway for the professional development in a post-COVID situation. So all in all, we are seeing good momentum building up, and we're also happy to announce that we have clinched 2 successful bids to host the World Chef Congress and Exhibition in 2024, and also the 110th Lions Club International Convention in 2028. So these 2 events collectively will bring in about 20,700 foreign delegates. So there's something good for us to cheer about, given this situation. Yeah, we are all lack of good news. And at my end, I am based out in New Delhi, but I'm now back in Singapore. Yeah, yearning to go back to India. I've not seen India enough. We are doing all our very best to engage the India travel trade, and we so far have received quite good feedback on the confidence of Singapore as a destination for business travel when times are better, and of course they still hold very high regards of Singapore in their consideration. So I think all this bodes well for Singapore, but of course the next few months are quite the testing period for businesses to repivot. And of course, we're going to speak, later on, we're going to speak a little bit more on how businesses will be changing their strategy and business directions in the coming months. Yep.
Absolutely. Those are words of positivity and optimism coming from you, Mr. Lim. I'd like to move to Mr. Naveen Rizvi now, who is a known figure when it comes to conferences, government events in India and even in abroad. Mr. Rizvi, what is your take on the situation, and how do you foresee the business in the coming next 1 year? I'm talking about the next 1 year.
Thank you, Raghav. Thank you for this opportunity to discuss this. Interestingly, I think things are changing. It's showing the positive direction from the month of August. And we were lucky enough that we executed 2 small events. And one is live come hybrid, one is pure live event in the month of August, which is a positive sign as such. The whole segment, if you will see, has a different component altogether. But for the congresses and conventions, because if you are operating in the Indian market, India itself is a very big market for our local congresses and conventions. Our national associations, our business within India is so big that we can easily survive with the business what we generating from India, executing within India, and even taking those conferences even abroad. So our outbound market is quite big. I think after China, I think the way India is progressing, it's going to touch more than 30 million people traveling abroad. It's already showing 25 or something exactly. I don't remember the figures. But there's kind of a number of people moving out of India. And the interesting part is that we already have conventions lined up from October onwards. And none of those conferences have been cancelled. Yes, there are chances that maybe some people will not be able to come to India because of flight restrictions. So what organizers are doing, they are making the event in a hybrid kind of a situation, where the Indian participants will be at the venue. So it's like a proper conference for them. And the foreign participants, in case they will not able to visit India, they can be part of that conference through this kind of a virtual meeting module. So that is something which is very, very interesting, because clients wanted to do it. Some conferences which India has won, they wanted to execute, because as you know, with the international conferences, it rotates. So if India lose the opportunity this year, they will not get it next year. Now you can see what happened with the Australia T20 World Cup. They lost it this year. Next year it's happening in India, so they can't host it next year now. Same way with the conferences, if the country loses of that particular year, it is very difficult for them again to do it next year till the time you don't get the open date. So that is as far as the international conferences are concerned. But as I said in the beginning, we have a very big market, the domestic market. The best part, what will be the survival for India will be the domestic market. And this market is existing always and from last so many years. Right now, people have started talking more about domestic, but the fact of the matter is the kind of congresses we do. I remember I did my first congress in 1998 for 5,000 people. Now the same congress, in the present scenario, is around 15,000 delegates. So we have that kind of a business volume. So what I suggest that if people will focus on this kind of a business, I think they should not be having more challenges, because what we have are limitations right now, up to 50 delegates or 50 participants for the social event. It will go very soon. Already there are a lot of discussions happening and with the tourism ministry, and very soon you will see the restrictions will be lifted and 50% of the venues will be allowed to operate, and slowly and gradually, maybe in 3 to 4 months, you will see it will come back to normal. I foresee by April, May, things will start moving quite fast as far as this segment is concerned. Things have already come. So everybody is targeting, saying by November, December, January. And remember, for the domestic market, there is not a challenge of such a long preparation. As you know, in India, you decide today, you travel day after tomorrow, you'll be present on the third day. So that's a big part. Being a large country, I think that will help us, and that will definitely help us in overcoming this big challenge.
Thank you, Mr. Rizvi, for your valuable comments. I'd like to ask my next question to Mr. David AUDRAIN. And what are your comments once the normalcy resumes, once events, MICE industry comes to functioning, and what are going to be the new trends? Is our industry going to change, or we are going to follow the same old practices? What are your thoughts on this?
I also would like to have a crystal ball, but I don't have one. But I do feel that based on the research that we have seen already taking place, that, as I said earlier, the majority of the customers out there want to get back to face-to-face events. They see the value in them. One of the things we have seen is that the transition to online events in one form or another has had some success in some markets and some sectors, but it is still very difficult for most products to be shown successfully online. I think back to events that I have run over the years, from automotive to flooring to fabric to fashion, and in the majority of the cases, most buyers are not going to buy a product that they have not been able to touch, taste, feel, see run. If you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a big piece of equipment, you typically want to see it running. You want to see the quality of the product that you're buying. So we've had plenty of opportunity to transition to online events for decades. And the reality has been that the exhibitions and events industry in 2019 was larger than it had ever been in history. So there's no reason to feel that that once people feel comfortable, they feel safe, they feel events are safe to attend again, there's no reason to feel that they won't come back. Now, this could well take years, unfortunately, to rebuild, but it also could switch quite quickly once there's vaccines in place, once there's rapid testing in place for most, just as we've seen in China recently, that many of the larger events that have happened over the last month have seen 80 or 90% of their exhibitor levels from 2019, and they've seen 80 to 100+% of their attendee levels. So yes, personally, I feel very comfortable that face-to-face events will return as strong as ever. We just have no idea how long that will take, unfortunately.
But do you feel there are certain aspects which are going to change? Is hybrid going to be the norm of the future? Will there be some safety norms that organizers would have to adhere to for sure? Or maybe they'll fall back to their old practices?
Certainly in the near term, there are lots of safety practices that we are all implementing, both from the venue side with things like the GBAC Star certification safety programs, from the organizers side in terms of changing the way we schedule people to attend our events, changing the way we distribute badges, changing the ways that we function as the food and beverage events. Lots of those processes can be done. As I think Marianne mentioned earlier, there's plenty of willingness and plenty of examples of ways we can safely hold events and provide people with a safe participation in those events. So I think certainly for the next year or more after they start to roll forward, there's every likelihood we will see those sorts of practices in place. Hybrid is a different animal from the online events, and there are definitely success stories already of people showcasing ways to involve wider audiences in some sort of hybrid or online distribution of events. But I personally don't believe that replacing a 2-3 day live event with a 2 or 3 day online event makes much sense. The distribution of content to a wider audience on a distributed model makes a lot of sense. But expecting people to sit in front of a Zoom window, frankly, for days at end doesn't make a lot of sense, and nobody really wants to do it.
Absolutely, absolutely, Mr. Audrey. You have put it very rightly that physical events are irreplaceable, and we do hope that the normalcy resumes very soon. With this, I'd like to move to Ms. Marianne EWBANK, and I'd like to ask her, suppose the events start, normalcy prevails, are we ready to follow the safety norms? Because you've been in the operations side of the events industry, that's why I'm asking you this question. Would we be able to follow the new norms to make sure that the attendees have the confidence of returning to live events?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I think that it's very clear since the registration until unloading trucks and move the crates all over and how to storage them, how to deliver them. Yeah, I think so, especially for the freight forwarders specialized on that point of view. Yes, they know exactly. We are ready. This is one of the things of our industry is that we are always carrying something sensitive. So now we have just to be more careful. I just want to add something that David just said is like the hybrid and digital events. Another thing that people are just tired of, and I think that is going to be a big incentive when we can go back to the live event, is that in the beginning, the first 60 days, the live festivals or the live the presentations of musicians and bands on internet, they were a big hit. Now they're going down. The audience is going down because people are tired to just sit in front of a screen and see their favorite band or their favorite singer just sing for, you know, without the crowd. So I think that we are humans and we want to get in touch with other people, no digital thing, you know, and it's the same for the business. You cannot do a food show, by online. You can show the packages, how they look like, but you cannot taste. You cannot taste a wine. I'm not going to buy a wine, or even if I put it in my store, if I don't taste it. The bottle can be really nice, the label can be fantastic, the design, but if you don't explain, if the person doesn't see you, how it was since the growing, etc. No, you cannot do a test drive of a car by internet, even using the 3D glass or whatever, you know, it's different. So I think that the hybrid and digital is to keep content, it's a way to keep connected the organizer, the customer and the visitor, the entire year until the event itself, the presential.
Absolutely, very well said. And you have reinstated what Mr. David AUDRAIN said, that we cannot replace actual live events. Yes, and with this, I'd like to move to Mr. RAJEEV KOHLI. And you know, corporate travel, business travel is very important for the MICE industry. And with the current situation, organizers, corporates will be very choosy in picking up the right destinations. What do you think, Mr. KOHLI, would be the upcoming trends in this regard? Can you throw some light on the upcoming trends in business travel and business tourism industry?
So as I said, the Caribbean, Mexico, I've already seen interest, movement. And I saw a post of a friend today from the Caribbean that first group is arriving in October. Obviously, shorter haul destinations to any key source market are going to do better than longer haul destinations. And that is a very strong disadvantage India has. We don't have any high volume or profitable short haul source markets, but a very strong advantage for destinations like Singapore and Thailand, which are always loved destinations for Indians to get out. I think now in the ecosystem, airlines have gotten their safety protocols right. International hotel chains have gotten their protocols right. Airports have gotten it right. I don't think this is where the risk lies, and I don't think this is where the majority concern lies. It is in the rest of the ecosystem for any destination, any operator, any event, that this is probably where the question will be. I mean, I as a DMC or a supplier, whatever, or a buyer even, can walk into a client's office with the Taj Hotels, IHG, whatever, by my side to talk about all the protocols that I have put in place. What will the destinations do to express the safety protocols? I mean, why will anyone come to India to be isolated? Why will anyone come to India to stay in a resort for 6 nights and then go back home? It doesn't make sense. I mean, why will I go to Singapore if I'm not going to go to Little India, if I'm not going to go to Clarke Quay? I don't want to go and stay at the Fairmont or the Marina Bay Sands and look out at the view. You know, how does the destination connect the dots is the question. And that's a question which really hasn't been answered. But I think it's very important to understand that even in our business, I mean, events, they all come in different shapes and sizes. I mean, you could do a successful car show by letting people come in 10 at a time. But how can you do a show like IBTM, which all of us know about, where you're going bang, 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 appointment after appointment every 30 minutes, you know? I think trends are too early to predict. As I said, every source market is behaving very differently. There are markets where a lot more conservative. We have seen recent reports that say Indians want to get out as soon as they can. There is no reason that will not filter down in the corporate events market. And if the noise from the delegate community is strong enough, the corporate may say, you know what, guys, what the hell, let's go. But you need to sign 3 extra papers to indemnify me from taking you. You know, health and safety is not something we in Asia, and specifically in India, have been very conscious about. But anyone who's worked with the Europeans, especially the British, I mean, they are health and safety nuts. size of corridors, balconies. I mean, they've been doing this for years. And this is just one more checklist that's going to be added into the system. So trends, too early to say. But as I said, I'm very optimistic.
Thank you, Mr. Kohli, and very well put. And I'll take some cues from what you said, and I'll move to Mr. Raymond Lim about the thought of connecting the dots. How important will the destination's role be in connecting the dots? And can Singapore be that effective destination? As Mr. Kohli said, that health and safety is going to be the key. And to match, I'm sure that Singapore is a front runner in the race, of course. But do you have an effective plan in place to restart and kickstart the MICE industry, keeping in place the safety and the confidence level of the participants?
Well, I think I echo a lot of the comments made by my fellow experts here in this panel. I mean, we are in the business of creating fun, right? And our core business objective is to integrate people, to bring people together. It's more like the what do you call a social integration of experiences that we bring people through. And at the same time, they learn something because business travel. I mean, you attend a convention, you want to learn something, you want to feel something. So we are in a bit kind of a fix now, because the need of the hour is basically social distancing. So what does this mean to us? Because we can't do things like what we used to do if there's social distancing in place for too long. And we're all praying very hard that the vaccine will be found soon. And once that is done, I do not think that all the measures will be thrown down the drain. We still need to comply because we never know how it mutates and how it will develop in the next few years. And this therefore means that we have to accept this as a norm. Many people like to call it new norm, but well, it's going to be a norm, so there's no new norm, so to speak. I mean, a fellow colleague of mine was sharing with me about this thing, about in times of adversity, what you stood for in the past and your track records actually means a lot. And that's precisely, I think, is very apt for the current crisis. And specifically for Singapore, I think a lot of people always associate Singapore as a very safe, very clean, very efficient, very trustworthy. And basically, it's just hygiene factors. And these are not very glamorous attributes that we can actually sell a destination. And some people feel that we are fun, but yet somehow sterile and regulated. However, in the new era, where we call it the COVID present era, I think these attributes actually play somehow to an advantage in terms of having this foundation for Singapore, and then the overlay with our track record of having managed the COVID situation in a robust and transparent manner. So, and in the new norm of travel, where there's heightened concern of hygiene, regardless whether the vaccine is found or how the situation has improved, I think concern on hygiene, on assurance, on availability of quality medical care, I think these are very important, and we're very confident that Singapore, as a mid-haul destination, specifically for the Indian market, I believe we would be continue to be very attractive, and continue to have very high priority in the minds of consideration among the Indian visitors. And also we want to build upon our MICE capabilities and our past success as a top meeting and convention city for the past 18 years. And of course, we can't do away the fact that we need to comply with safe distancing. So given this time, I think the MICE industry would really have to quickly come to speed with tackling the new norm requirements, and especially on the product and service delivery. And I also agree that at this juncture, a lot of the players within the ecosystems really need to work together collaborate even closer so that there is no broken link in terms of the customer experience when attending a M.I.C.E event, because all you need is for one player to be not so on the ball, and the whole experience would be tarnished. So yeah, so that's my take on how things how I see things. It's going to be in terms of people selecting a destination for future M.I.C.E travel.
Fair enough. Thank you. Thank you for your comments, valuable suggestions, and your inputs, Mr. Lim. I'd like to move to Mr. Naveen Rizvi. Mr. Rizvi, you have spent years in this industry. Do you feel that a vaccine is mandatory to revive the industry back on its feet again? Do you feel we cannot resume our events to normalcy until and unless we all of the people are vaccinated, all the business tourists and travelers are vaccinated? And what is your comments on if we can resume, then how we can, what steps we can do to revive back to our M.I.C.E business?
See, vaccine is important to a certain extent. Like, for example, if you travel to South America and Africa from India, like if you're traveling to Brazil, you need to have a yellow fever vaccination. So that these are certain norms which people normally follow. But as far as vaccine is the only way doing it, then only we should do it, I don't think so. Because if you see currently what is happening in India, we already started doing events. Although the numbers, as I said, is 50, but a lot of social events are happening, even a lot of some corporate events are happening, some small conferences are happening. So these are all happening without vaccine. I think we should not be worried too much. Yes, it's important, vaccination, and so many vaccines are there, but are we using all those vaccines? I don't think so. We have flu vaccines, we have hepatitis B vaccines, there are so many vaccines available. But is the entire population of each and every country has been vaccinated for all the vaccines? No. So I don't think so. I think people should come out with this fear. Yes, it is dangerous. This is not something which people have experienced before in our generation. We have to take precaution. We have to take precaution on our own. And I think there are very basic precautions. If you study carefully, it's a very basic precautions. Having masks, having sanitizer, use sanitizers, be clean, be hygienic. This is the only expectations what people have. And that's, if people will follow those norms and those protocols, I don't foresee a big challenge. A lot of challenges coming when people are not following certain guidelines, they are not following certain restrictions, and that can happen for anything. Even for example, in this part of the world, tuberculosis is so common. You sit with a patient and that patient is not aware about that he or she has a tuberculosis, especially the lung one, and you don't know and you can get the infection. So I personally feel that to some extent, this is an overhyped situation, which I think the world is doing the self-goal, and the lockdowns, weekdays lockdowns, weekend lockdowns, I think that is too much. I think it was required only for the first month. That was the month where every government can assess the situation. And after that, you can allow it. Now you see the example of India. We went for a lockdown when we have only 500, 600 cases. And now we are almost open when we have, the number of cases have gone 20 times or 50 times more than that. So I think where exactly we are going, I think people should not fear too much. They should, otherwise you will always sitting at home only. Because if you start fearing like this, you will find some diseases happening in some part of the world, something else is happening. I don't think so. The vaccine should be the only criteria. Yes, it's an important aspect. People should take the precaution. And if you do even the basic precautions, I think you can still do it. You have been seeing in our country at least a lot of small events are happening and people are fine. How many people got corona? How many people are COVID-19 positive out of all these weddings happen in this country? So I think it's more of a mindset. Yes, it is something which people should be worried of. So for that, you need to take precautions. No need just to wait for vaccine to start the events. I don't think so it will work that way. See the example, we had a 15th of August Independence Day celebration. Have you heard a single person got COVID-19 in this entire thing? No. We had this temple construction ceremony. Have you heard anybody got COVID-19 because of that ceremony? I don't think so. So I think we need to be a little positive in our mindset, and we have to look forward working towards the entire benefit of the economy. Otherwise, it will be very, very challenging for everyone, not for our industry, but for each and every industry.
Very well put, Mr. Naveen Rizvi. Those were words of sheer positivity. And much needed indeed for our industry. We now move to the last segment of our panel discussion, and this is a surprise segment for our speakers. It is called a quick fire round, and I'll request all the attendees who want to engage. Please interact with each other, ask questions through the chat box, and also visit the speakers lounge. We have an immersive virtual environment. Go to the speakers lounge, and in case you have some questions in regards to some particular sessions, please put up your questions and we'll request our speakers to answer your questions. Coming back to our last round, this is called a quick fire. I'll ask 3 trends that our esteemed speakers feel would be the normal once the live event industry kickstarts. This could be hybrid, this could be whatever norms that they feel. It could be safety. So we at the end of the session, our attendees can see what are the common points, and those common points they can use as a white paper. So I'll start with Mr. David AUDRAIN. Mr. AUDRAIN, according to you, what would be the 3 things that would be a must going forward to ensure successful events?
For me, I think the most important thing right now is access to rapid, accurate testing, low cost. I think for us to get people to attend events again, we need to be able to make them comfortable that they are negative before they even leave their home, that they can be tested on site, and that the people that they will be mingling with have already been tested and are negative as well. So to me, that's the most important thing we can do, is get availability of rapid, low cost testing and accurate testing that goes forward. Safety protocols are number 2, making sure that people really are comfortable again, that people will be wearing masks, that there will be physical distancing in place. Not hard for us in most of our venues. We have large venues and we can space people out. We can send people badges in advance so they don't have to line up to get them on site. There's many things we can do on that side. And I really think that those are the main 2. I limit to those 2 biggest things.
Okay, we'll take that, and we'll ask a similar question to Ms. MARIANE EWBANK. What are your 3 points that will be the trends going forward?
Well, that's hard because David he said about the most important ones. Well, I can tell you that I think that partnership, it's something that is something that it has to be taken in top of priority. Partnership between organizers and suppliers and the organizers, because if with the 3 of them, these 3 pillars, they don't work together, they are not on the same page, the visitors will not come. That's the thing. And
Very well said.
The confidence, the trust that we show to our customers, I think it's important, showing that we know what to do, that we are in compliance with the protocols. I also think that the protocols, they will be adjusted with time. We're going to see what works, what doesn't work, you know, to take the measures, and the transparency. The transparency, I think. That's the 3 things that I think that we need to take in consideration.
Great, great. I'll just reframe my question a little bit for the next lot of the speakers. So to Mr. Rajeev KOHLI, I'd like to ask 3 points in order of priority, which you feel the MICE or the live corporate travel industry, the MICE industry, would like to adhere to in order of preference. What would be in their top of their mind when they're going to think about MICE going forward?
So Raghav, there's going to be some very fundamental changes in the background, which we haven't talked about today. Number 1, stronger vetting of suppliers. This is already a conversation in third parties across the world. Do suppliers have the financial ability to hold deposits and stay? Number 2, conversations on force majeure is the next big thing, okay? And this is the Wild West. This is truly the lawyer's dream come true. And number 3, I think delivery of, especially for the incentive side, delivery of more once in a lifetime experiences, but giving the participants greater choice and freedom within the program. That will be some very fundamental changes. But the force majeure clause and vetting of suppliers is going to be that seismic shift that every one of us on the supplier side is going to face, because our partners are already facing the heat from the end corporates. And that's another whole webinar conversation.
Absolutely, new dimension altogether. Thank you so much. And Mr. Rizvi, I'd like to come back to you, and I'd like to ask you a similar question. 3 things that would occupy the top of our mind recall in terms of MICE going forward.
I think like some of the points have already been said with regard to security, safety, force majeure, and all these things. But I think one thing which is very, very important is basically a destination, because it's a destination, which destination can attract people. The way they are not marketing it, but the way they can convince the people that yes, this destination is safe. Certain destinations have already started talking about it. You must have seen what Thailand is already been talking about, or Dubai has recently started talking about, that come to our countries, come to our places, they are perfectly fine. We are COVID-free. Even New Zealand started talking about it, although they have very limited case. So I think the destination image in the mind of the end consumer plays a very, very vital role. Second thing, it's all about like how you are going to handle the whole process. That makes a big difference, because you can't make something new. If there is an aircraft flying to a destination, it's an aircraft. But how you handle the things, you have to think out of the box. You cannot just work in the way you used to work pre-COVID era. So that is something which we need to work on. That basically about how you can do the smart thinking of taking things forward. And the third, the most important thing, that clients should have a confidence in you that in case of any unforeseen situation like this, will you able to handle it at a ground level or not? Will you have a resources to play at that level or not? Do you have a reach at a particular venue, at the center or a destination to overcome these challenges? So I think these 3 things play a very, very important role going forward.
Very well said. And that brings me to Mr. Raymond Lim. And he's coming at the right time, because Mr. Rizvi did mention about destination. 3 things, Mr. Lim, that you feel destination like Singapore can offer to the MICE fraternity to reimpose confidence.
Well, I think this is a difficult question to answer, because I think our esteemed speakers have almost covered a lot of ground, and that's always the disadvantage of being the last speaker. It's so good for me, because then I have lesser to share. But perhaps I think generally, in terms of how we look at value and how we look at the ROI, I think this needs to be recalibrated. And from a lot of surveys that's been conducted, I think there's a new appreciation of what a face-to-face meeting now means, which basically means that it's now getting even more privileged than ever before to really attend, to travel to attend an event overseas, conventions, congress, or even for meeting and incentive travel. And it means more than ever, if a delegate is willing to travel and make it for a physical or physical conference or meeting or incentive, it must reflect importance and the value the delegates will attach to the event. So this focus on value, be it content or be it the platform or the network, would naturally then transactions. There's actually no difference between the old and the new normal, because the greatest value is achieved when businesses play to their own strength, existing ones and new ones, to deliver what's considered essential and important to their clients. And of course, the difference is in how the values are being prioritized in the new normal. So all players would then have to reevaluate what actually are they bringing value to the clients, because it's no longer the same cookie cutter, the cookie cutter kind of programs that will make the grade. And on the M&I front, I think we can expect groups to be smaller, at least for a start. And it also means there's some level of decentralization, because back in it's no longer the good old days when a big group of 1,000 packs of a group coming from different cities congregating and going together, because everything is centralized. So I would see that there would be some decentralization. And specifically for STB, we are in market. We are trying to chase after all the groups. Some of our business strategy will have to change, because we just can't go to the HQ and talk to one person. We probably need to talk to different people from different branches of the same business. we also expect greater care and scrutiny by corporates in crafting their RFPs for travel programs, because there are now new factors to consider, and also budget is now a consideration, because with all these safety measures, budget is going to be an issue. And then, of course, there will be more, like I said, greater emphasis on new value and better programming. Yeah. So this is my take. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lim, for your valuable suggestions and comments. And with this, I'd like to invite Mr. Ravinder Sethi to give the concluding remarks.
And all I can say is, wow, to start with. Raghav, when you asked me to do a wrap-up session of everything, I thought, wow, this is going to be, a piece of cake. But so much has come in this 1 hour. And I must admit, and I say it with humility, I have learned some things over here. And one of the things I've learned is that though we are in the exhibition and the exhibition side, the logistics side, there's so much in common right now when we are looking at the issue, present and the future. And, for example, our problems, our issues, David has rightly stressed on two main things. He talks about the government level, and leadership is a strong element. Leadership can tell you what direction you would be going. A lot of us are already at that advanced stage, and that's very, very important. And at the same time, what leadership puts into play, and David has, pinned it right there, rapid tests, full stop. More and more accurate rapid tests, which will also become the norm for the future, because those will also govern safety and protocols. So that's something which we have to look for. Very, 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 very precise, accurate, and David's opinion, and I'm with you on that. Online events are temporary, and hybrid is for getting audiences, and not really for the participants. A lot of what David said was reflected with MARIANE and the Brazilian and the South American market on the whole. Leadership is an issue, because what you have in Brazil, you've got the various cities with their own leaderships and how they want to go through, and then you've got the federal leadership, on their own platform. In terms of operational side, by the way, she's my fellow colleague in the logistics fraternity, and I'm honored to be with her on many forums. SOPs are in place at operational levels by many of the likes of her and me. We are ready, that's what she said, and I stand by her. And live events have to return. I fully agree with you, MARIANE. And of course, you also talked about, for the future, partnerships. That's a crux. Partnerships have to be taken in, not just as a cliche, but in their real form. And we have to bring confidence back to the customers. That's very, very important. And for that, transparency is the key. Rajeev, man, I love you, man. The optimism is great. And you've mentioned about, no, because I'm on the same page with you. It's a question of time. Play the game, don't be silly. We know how to do it. And you have things already in place. You're talking about actual incentive events which are in place even in India. The Caribbean and some of the South American countries already have, corporate incentive programs in play. But the important thing which you mentioned is that the entire ecosystem has to be in tandem. And that entire ecosystem cannot be in the MICE industry, cannot be just for one country. We cannot have things in place in Singapore and not in India. Otherwise, it will not work. And you put that also correctly, that this has to continue for times to come. This is not going to go away. The entire ecosystem, because this beast, which is globally with us, we don't know where it will come up again and in what form. So this is important. I love what you said, that, hey, start thinking out of the box, in terms of the delivery. And the fact of which, very, very few people have realized and thought into consideration, and that's force majeure. How you can be used and how it can be misused, I think, which I will add on. And the misuse is more dangerous. Singapore, Raymond, has always been a role model. We had an earlier session with Andrew, and you know, for you, your domestic tourism has already opened. You've got no problems in terms of leadership and putting things into play. I like what you said. I think it is also in tangent with which has been said by the other speakers, that you know, accept this as a norm, and accept this as a norm. And for the future, make sure that you put in new values for these new norms. You cannot go on the old values. And this was something which, by the way, was reflected in our earlier session in the morning also, where when we talk about new values, when Rajesh Agrawal, our ITPO executive director, he said, you know, he says, change is the only thing constant with us, you know, and we're going to be bringing about change for the positive. So we had Naveenji. I think you really, for the MICE industry, you pinpointed a few things, you know, which is really good. You said, look, in the Indian market, the domestic tourism is going to be the driving force, and we have it. And that is going to be the path to our recovery very fast. What I really liked what you said, but hey, vaccine is not going to be your solution. Vaccine will come and go, but it is not the only solution. Don't look for it. You're the one person who really mentioned hybrid also in the MICE industry side. But again, you said that hybrid is not something which is going to become a norm. Take it as an additive rather than an alternate. You've talked about you know, stressing more on you know, the destination image, which is very important. Again, coming to something like think out of the box for the MICE industry. And of course, one thing in common with everybody has been that, you know, safety, security, and protocols have to be crucial for us for at least for some times to come, or maybe for our lives to come. So that's just about what I've been able to put together in this very, very, you know, enlightening session. Raghav, congratulations to you for putting such a diverse sort of, you know, geographical diversity. We have all different elements of the MICE industry in one place. And again, I'll quote Mr. Agrawal, what he said in the morning, you know, we will come out of it stronger. So thank you.
Absolutely, and very well said and summarized, Mr. Sethi. Thank you for being so optimistic and positive. I would like to thank all our esteemed speakers who have taken their precious time and come out and discussed and also enlightened our attendees on what's going to be the future of our industry in terms of what are going to be the upcoming trends of the MICE industry. With this, we wrap up this session. And once again, thank you all for being a part of this wonderful session.